We'll see if this is gonna work. Hello fellow authors, aspiring writers, and book nerds. Welcome back to my channel. So hello guys. Welcome to today's video. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I am Nicole. I hope you have fun here. And if you're a returning visitor, thank you. So today we are going to talk about sequels. Sequels and companion novels are very common in the writing industry. It can go both ways with sequels. Either it's a necessary thing or it's just a waste of pages. It's a thing. There are some people who'd say that sequels and companion novels are cash grabs onto stories that is well loved by the writer's audience. But I also believe that a sequel or a companion novel is based on the discretion of the writer. If the writer thinks that the story isn't over yet, if there are questions that are yet to be answered, worlds yet to be discovered, I think sequels and companion novels are a good way to go if one book isn't enough to contain all of the information needed in order to convey the story to the audience. So in today's video, I am going to share my thoughts on the sequel thing. Why am I making a sequel for my debut novel? And is it a sequel or is it a companion novel? Let's dive into the video, shall we? Before we proceed into my thoughts about my debut novel and its sequel, let's answer a few questions, shall we? First question is, what is a sequel and a companion novel? A sequel carries the story from the first book to the second book. Same world, same characters. Companion novel focuses on the different characters in the first book, but you're still in the same world. The meaning behind sequels and companion novels can get a little bit tricky, but according to what I've researched, that is the difference between a sequel and a companion novel. Number 2, am I writing a romance or a tragedy? As you all know, I am a romance writer and I just add different genres into the mix in order not to make, romance a very boring genre when I write. I enjoy writing romance, but if I'm gonna write romance in itself, I am not going to enjoy that. So I include, fantasy or sci-fi or adventure, action, just to make sure that the story doesn't just focus on the main couple, because I do like a lot of drama and a lot of things going on in the story, but at the same time, what drives my story is the romance of the characters. I don't know why I'm explaining a lot. I guess I just want to share to you guys how I write my romance novels, just so you know, we're on the same page. Now, for me, a typical romance story will always have the usual happy ending. There will be a lot of ups and downs for the couple, but at the end, their love will prevail, they're both alive, and they're together. That's the happy ending. It's the princess and the prince charming. On the other side, a tragedy is also a love story. However, in the end, one of them or two of them will die. Best example is Romeo and Juliet. So in my case, I am writing a romance story. Maybe in the future I will try venturing to tragedy, but right now I really am focusing on the romance stories that have, the beautiful happy ever after story. Number 3, does the book need further explanation? For me, my debut novel right now, I didn't expect for it to have a big of a world, because I'm a painter, I just write what I know. And then now when I am looking at the story that I wrote, I was like, I didn't know that this was this big. I didn't know that the world can be expanded more. The romance can be expanded a lot more. I didn't know that. Right now, for me, no, the book does need further explanation, or because if I'm gonna expand or if I'm gonna explain the whole world and everything the story, the sequel isn't enough. So I was thinking of maybe putting something else in the book just to make sure that, just to help people, you know, understand what the world is. But I'm not gonna talk about that here. Number 4, does the audience like it? This point will base on the beta reading process. If the beta readers think that you would need a sequel, then you should do a sequel or a companion novel. That's just for me. For your perspective, you do need the sequel, then go ahead. But if your readers think that you can talk about it in one go, in one book, maybe reconsider. Now we are in the part of the video where I'm going to talk about my debut novel and the sequel. I did mention a while ago that I am in the process of writing a romance story, which means it will have the usual happily ever after ending. And I did mention in my previous vlogs that it will have a sequel. First reason why it has a sequel is because when I envisioned the story itself, one book isn't enough for me to just explain everything that's gonna happen. So it was in my discretion, the writer's discretion, to make the sequel. I did have a few people who have read the story and they said they appreciate the fact that I did not make one long ass book just to tell one story. I actually didn't expect for the story to have a second book originally, but as I continued to write the story, especially now I am in the revision phase, the final revision phase, I didn't expect for it to have such a big world that one book isn't enough to explain. I did thought about either a sequel or a companion novel because there are factors in the story where I can make another book which can be considered as a sequel, and there are aspects of the story where it can be considered as a companion novel. So it really took a lot of thinking and a lot of planning. Shocking, right? A pantser plans. No, I'm not really planning in the way that I am plotting things. I just needed time to think about the aspects if I do need a sequel or a companion novel, and my final decision was yes, I need the sequel. My final thoughts on this matter regarding sequels is that as a writer, for me, this is my perspective, I write for myself first, and from my perspective, the first book needs a little sister, and I feel like the sequel will complete the story. I didn't want to write a sequel in the first time I was writing this book, but as time progressed, as I grew to become a better writer, I hope I am a better writer now, the sequel is very much needed. And right now I am working on it. I'm actually preparing for it because the first book has been with me for such a long time. And for me to do the sequel, to start a new story from scratch, I find it scary now because I just made like this bullet list of what I want to happen in the story. And I just want the sequel to be at least at the same level of the first book. If it's gonna be better than the first book, then that's great. Right now, I just want to focus on developing the story more, especially in the first book. I'm telling you, revising as a pantser, it isn't easy. You will realize you have a lot of filler and you have a lot of adverbs and stuff like that. So I just hope that everything turns out well. But that is all for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Do give this video a big thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Share me your thoughts on sequels and companion novels. Do you agree with sequels? Do you agree with companion novels? Do you think it's necessary from time to time? Or do you believe that a story should be fitted in one book, even though it's gonna reach like 1,000 pages? To everyone who's been supporting my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and my Tumblr, I would like to say thank you very much, and I love you guys with all my heart. Your support doesn't go unnoticed. And that is all for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Stay creative, guys. Happy writing.